some sources. I'm like, there's only one source. You only see us on video. That's all you get. So I'm gonna make this box a little bit smaller. Yeah, so we're here. We're live at Two Fingers Social, and you're gonna get some background noise. That's what's expected out of the movie bar. And the chat window is up. There you go. So yeah, this is the whole chat window up.
All right.
Drops in.
Sounds good.
So, this is Daniel Hickey. We met him. I was going to Seattle Film Institute, and our instructor actually introduced us to Daniel. He had written some scripts. He came in there with a short script that he wrote, and we got to act some of his short script out. And so he came into Seattle Film Institute. We met him there, and lo and behold, he's actually started this huge network with actors, with all kinds of filmmakers and crews in Seattle. He's helped a lot of people get started on their films, so we're going to do this interview with him, and we're going to pick his brain on how to get started making horror films here, especially in the Seattle area. Daniel Hickey's definitely the guy to talk to get started here. So
awesome, thank you, man.
Yeah. So Max, you want to get like some view of the bar? Daniel, you want to tell us a little bit about the bar? How you came up with?
Yeah. Well, the name's over there. Two Fingers Social. This is a horror movie bar that is in West Seattle Light Center, right at the edge. Fantastic bar. Showing cult horror, martial arts films all the time. Lots of events. And yeah, when I found out about it as a big horror guy, I was like, how did I not know there was a horror movie bar in my hometown? But then as soon as we found out about it, connected with Andrew, who's the owner, wonderful guy, and we've had a lot of like big meetups here, community meetups that anybody's invited to, get like 40, 50 people, and it's just a great fit. It's a really fun, people should come and just walk around. There's a lot of fun stuff all over.
That's a good turnout. So like 40 or 50 people you get to show here from the community actually showing up here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm always the first one here and the last to leave. Normally pretty drunk by the end, but throughout the night, we get a lot of people. It's a very, it's a great community. A lot of people come back again and again. It's a social event that people look forward to. But it's also, you know, a lot of new people, like new to town, new to filmmaking, and people come from, you know, all over the place. Really travel far to get here. So we do try to move it around. I think our next one will be in Tacoma, but due to the fit and due to Andrew being awesome, and it's a little bit south from Seattle, so it's not as far for people from Tacoma. It's a great place to meet up. Good space. Yeah.
And they're letting us do this interview in here, so that's super cool.
Yeah.
So my wife actually, she jumped on. She said, yeah, the TV is super loud, but we're in a movie bar. That's where we're at. So I guess the question is, can you hear us? Can you hear Daniel? Can you hear him talking during the interview? Can you understand what he's saying, babe?
I mean, it might be cold, but we could do something outside. I don't know if you could stop something and go back up. Up to you guys.
I have confidence you should be able to hear what I'm saying. Can you hear us, babe? Yes or no?
That might be a no. Oh yes, all right,
good. Could you understand most of what he was saying doing the live interview in a movie bar? I know we have the TV behind us, but actually I really love being here. This is a cool place. So
I could be louder too. Thank you for letting us know. All right. Awesome.
Here we go.
Yeah, I'm rarely accused of not being loud. I come from a loud family, and got a little bit of East Coast.
You've been around the entertainment industry and networking people, so of course you can talk so people can hear you.
Yeah, I love it. Perfect. Yeah.
So we have, what are some of the other cool places? I know you stopped at a theater on the way here. You saw a movie today. And I know you have like a huge selection of, like, where do you go to see like the coolest like local horror movies that people are
Yeah, there's I feel we're very lucky in the area. There's a lot of venues and a lot of support. So movie theater wise, outside of like the normal ones, there's a wonderful movie theater in Columbia City called The Beacon. Really eclectic programming, programming with a personality. Actually, it doesn't feel like it's just. They're certainly not programming for money, and it doesn't feel like any corporate. I mean, it's very, very eclectic. Very weird. If you want to get just a general film education, I would just go to The Beacon a lot. We have in Seattle, we have Scarecrow Video. I don't know. Have you ever? Yeah. So Scarecrow Video, I think, is the world's biggest still operating video store. Switched to nonprofit. It's an amazing place. Again, if you want to educate yourself, get a lot of weird cult movies. Central Cinema, Blue Mouse Cinema in the Grand down in Tacoma. SIF. SIF not only is it a great film festival, but they just bought the Cinerama and reopened it, so that is the best place to see a big movie. And in the past, they used to do 70mm film festivals for stuff like I've seen on the big screen, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Thing, Alien, so hopefully they'll be doing that again. And then you're asking about where people can see local films. We have a lot of horror festivals that are local. There's one next weekend showing at the SIF Egyptian in Seattle called Bone Bat. It's focused more on comedy horror, and it's great because it's a plant your butt in a seat for 10 hours straight, and they have a ton of short horror films. They have some features. They have bands play in between segments.
Wow,
it's really great.
I haven't done that.
The guys who've been running that are great. They run a podcast. This is a festival that's been running over 10 years. Crypticon is going to be coming up in May down at SeaTac.
I know you're big on supporting Crypticon too. I've seen you make so many posts every time the Crypticon's coming around. I know you're on top of that.
I try to support all the festivals, including encouraging people to enter their films. Go, enjoy it. It's a great way to meet other people. Both those festivals are super supportive of local ones, local filmmakers. There's Bleedingham up in Bellingham. There's a Cabin in the Woods Festival run by Crystal, which is a newer one. There's a Grave Plot Film Festival, and that's just a few. And these are all in Seattle, so there's a lot of horror film festivals.
Yeah, it's so low.
Yeah. There's a Dreadfest in North Bend. There's just a ton of great horror film festivals, including one next weekend, which I would highly encourage people to go. It's going to be a blast. I will be there.
I need to check that out. I didn't even know that was they'd actually have live bands playing and stuff.
It's amazing. They have crypt rock bands, going on.
That seems super cool.
And Steve and Gord, who are the two guys, they really choose great films. Very supportive of local filmmakers, and it's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah.
You just gotta plant yourself for a while. I've never done the whole thing. I'm sure people have. I have never done the whole
10 straight
thing.
hours of watching
It might even be more. It's really long, but it's really fun, and they do a great job. Yeah.
I think the longest I've sat through watching short films was 2 hours, and that was watching all of our student films.
Yeah.
I think I could probably handle 10 hours of watching everyone from Seattle. It brings together a whole film.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we're very lucky, and I always encourage people to submit their films, and some of them will allow waivers. So some don't even charge local filmmakers to submit, which is a big thing. And all these are, I run a group called Seattle Horror Filmmakers, and that's on Facebook mostly, and meet up on Instagram, but mostly Facebook is the place. So if people want to know more, as Dan said earlier, I post stuff all the time. So nauseam a little bit,
The Seattle Film Horror Makers page that Daniel Hickey started, it's actually, the page is awesome. Honestly, after calling 30 people about werewolf costumes and everything to get started, lo and behold, I did find someone to do special effects and everything and design a werewolf costume, and I actually met him in Daniel's group. And I've been looking for 6 months, and sure enough, when a post was made in his group, I found someone local Actually, it was Shannon Goreline. He'll see this video later too.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Awesome guy. He's so cool. He's making a silicone werewolf suit. He's out of Yakima. Yeah, I drove 3 hours out there to meet him, but I met him off your filmmaking site.
That's what we want to do. Is just connect people. And there's a lot of really, really, really talented people out there, and you just gotta find a way to connect them.
Yeah. Your site definitely works. It connects people that already connected me. And that's not the first time actually. I've been in another short film, and the casting call was on your site.
Okay.
That was like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So, that was really
cool.
Another reason I want to interview Daniel because he's always networking people. He's always getting people together, and that's what we're trying to do. So. But yeah, we got some people joining, some people dropping out. What's up, Dun King? Interviewing a horror filmmaker here at Two Fingers Social Bar.
Yeah, and again, for everybody who's jumping in, again, you don't have to be a filmmaker to join the group. You just if you're into it, if you want to meet creative people, if you're a filmmaker or want to be one, it's meant to be a very friendly, low barrier way to jump in and meet other people, other creatives.
Yeah, I think any creativity really flows in it too. I mean, one of the ways that we're going is to take our movie script that I wrote and turn that into a comic book and use that as a storyboard for the film.
Yeah.
So I think even for like graphic artists and stuff like that, and comic book artists, anyone that does any kind of art, I think is great. There's always somebody looking for some kind of talent.
Yeah, that's great. I'm excited to see your film as it develops. Sometimes it's a long journey.
That's one thing I learned when I started acting. I was like, this is really cool. But when I got into the screenwriting class and I started writing, I fell in love with that. And I just couldn't stop writing. And
that's great.
I found that to be really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's what you do. That's your main thing, right?
Yeah, I would say
definitely. You would say your strong point out of all this.
It was how I entered. When I do other things, which I do enjoy, it's mainly to get my writing out there. So like I write a lot. It's my main. I think the main thing I bring to the table when I do something like direct or produce, it's often associated with that. Like, hey, somebody wants to do my film. I might produce it, or I really want to get the script out there. And. Not that I'm a great director. I think I have a lot to work on in that area. But like, the only way it's going to get done is if I direct it. So everything else I do is kind of just to get my writing from the page to the script.
To watch your script.
And you learn a lot too.
You have to wear the hats that you have to wear to make it happen, pretty much.
I think there are a lot of other. I don't know. I think I can do some producing and directing. I feel there's a lot of people out there who are better at it than I am. But when you're doing your own projects, nobody's going to be more invested there to get them done. And, I like to balance. I like to team up with a lot of people and just give them my script and let them run with it, and then maybe do one or two that I run with more. And so, so my goal is to get a lot of stuff out there that I'm involved with from a writing perspective, and some I'll be more involved with and some I'll be less involved with.
The most recent one I saw that you'd written was Blighter. I saw that you
so that was another way for people to get involved is the Seattle 48 challenge, which I know you've done too, right? That is.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Very hard.
It's hard, but it is great organization. The people run it are great networking. And so I do encourage people it is hard, but I do encourage people to try it out. And Blighted was one I wrote for the 48.
Okay.
And I had worked with this group a couple years prior, and they were a great group to work with. So I was very honored that they came back to ask me to write it. And it was fun. We got to shoot at the farm where The Ring was shot in Monroe, which was very cool. They were very kind, and it was an amazing location. And it was pretty. One of the things I do for those films is there's a local great FX guy named Danny Brown, and he often, like in these short films, will have one signature effect that he wants to do, and I just tell him you tell me what the effect is, and we'll figure out a way. You know,
Cool.
it's not me making up the effect, and
So
then he
he'll
does
have
it.
the effect, and you're like, hey, you want to do this effect on film? I'm going to write it
Yeah.
in pretty much as a
Yeah.
writer, and you guys are cohesive like that. It's
Yeah, I mean, I just put in, I think for that one, I was like something like Danny's fucked up knee scene, and put it in the thing, and I'm like, why describe it?
because Danny knows
Danny's gonna do what he's gonna
yeah.
do, and I just had to get people there, get the characters there, and get them out.
Oh, that's perfect.
So yeah, that's a fun. You know, there are different ways to write and make a film.
Danny's fucked up.
Yeah. If you
wants
have something like that, you know, and somebody who's passionate and has their thing, you know, you support them and kind of get out of the way. It's got to make sense within the story, but like, you know, on these 48s, it doesn't have to make that much sense, you know, you just want a crazy killer effect. And it was pretty gory and good. So I think he won, I'm pretty sure, I think he won Best Effects for the last 48, for that scene. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that one is, we haven't put it out online yet. We're submitting it to festivals. It did just get into Crypticon. And,
Yeah, I tried to pull it up because I was like, I want to see that one. I tried to pull it up and I was like, oh, you guys already pulled it off.
if you want to see it, I can send you a secret link. But I will say, just personally, when I make films, like I really want, as much as possible, I want to watch them on the big screen with an audience. So I know a lot of other filmmakers go out and post it online right away, and that's super cool, like it's your choice. But personally, I get a lot of energy out of seeing a film I made on the big screen in the dark with an audience, especially when they have a good reaction.
Because you get the audience reaction. You get to know how you're touching the audience with your own work. That's got to feel really good.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
I'm going to note that to myself. I'm going to, okay, so if I do my own film, I'm going to make sure that I actually sit in with a live audience. Do my first feature so I can see how they react, you know?
Yeah, we've twice now with a different group, we've rented out the Blue Mouse Theater and just shown like 2 to 3 hours of local films, not as a festival. Just, we basically all split the cost. So it really came down to like, I don't know, 10, 15 bucks to have your film. And yeah, so because we want to see it on the big, and some of them come out online beforehand, but you know, people can do something like that. If you don't get into a festival, there's nothing to stop you from getting together with some other filmmakers and renting a theater. You know, so there's a lot of fun ways to do it. Yeah.
That's got to feel really good, sitting in the theater.
It's great. It's great. It's the best. It makes you feel, you know, it can be hard. I know some filmmakers, and even I, sometimes get, you know, you're so close to it, you get a little like freaked out and cringy about it. But you know, if you write something funny and one person, all it takes is one person to laugh. One person in an entire audience. I'm like, great, it worked, you know.
Somebody.
Yeah, somebody.
Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah, we like some of the shorts that we've done. I sent one to my dad, and he's like, "It's kind of crude." And I was like, "But did you laugh?" And he's like, "Yeah, I laughed." And I was like, okay, good. That's all I need.
Yeah, you got to know your audience. I mean, my wife is super supportive, but she does not like many of the films I make because she doesn't like horror. So you know, I don't take it personally. It's just not her jam.
My wife's actually the big horror fan in our house. She's bigger into horror than I am.
There, good.
I like the suspense and I like the drama and everything. I'm not much into like the gore porn side of it.
Yeah,
That's the only thing. But I mean, when it's done right and it looks real, I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
So how'd you get it started? I guess with into horror, like because mainly like you really are into horror, like in writing. Like how did that passion start? Like when was it where you're like, I'm gonna write horror films and that's what I'm gonna do mostly?
You know, it's interesting. I do like all films. Yeah, I'm a big film buff. And I've written a lot of stuff in the past. And I think it was partially the community out here. Like, I happened to write something that was horror. And I was looking around for, you know, a group I could talk about it with. And actually, I actually didn't start the Seattle Horror Filmmakers. A wonderful guy who's now in LA named Brian Gorham did. And when I came on, he was like, hey, we'd really like to start up a writing section. So I started the writers group. And because of the group, you know, I just started writing more and more horror. And then I made one or two, and I'm like, hey, these are really fun to make. Like, even if it's like, you know, awful and gruesome and scary, you know, in front of the screen, like making horror films is really fun. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of craziness, so, but yeah, I've always growing up, like, you know, read a lot of science fiction and speculative fiction and horror and fantasy. So, and horror's pretty expansive. So I kind of started writing a lot of that stuff. I do still write other things, but it's mostly horror or like surreal, like comedy stuff. Yeah, and I love. I mean, obviously everybody loves horror, right? Like everybody's into it, which is okay. Like, that's great. I do feel horror is very expansive, and there can be a lot of different types of horror. And so because it's so broad, you know, a lot of people can kind of bring their own stories to it. It could be psychological, it could be supernatural, it could be, you know, talking about issues. So that's fun. It's you have a wide palette to play with. Yeah.
I knew like fun. That's number one for me. I haven't been like out of all the sets, right? You think about like drama, like any kind of that done. Horror is always fun to do.
It is fun, yeah. If you're throwing around blood and you have like a chopped off head, you know, it's like kind of it's silly, you know. You're kind of goofing off and having a great time. Yeah.
So if you had just like an unlimited budget,
yeah,
you know, because I know some people like, you know, I have a buddy of mine. He wrote a horror script, but you know that was a stepping stone. He's like, hey, what I really want is, you know, to get noticed so I can write like a big fantasy film.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah.
If you had like an unlimited budget and you were able to just like write anything and not consider entertainment or whatever,
yeah,
would it be a horror film or what do you think it would? What would that entail? Like,
I mean, it probably would.
Maybe science fiction horror.
No, it would probably be horror. I mean, because I've built up this expertise in it over the years, and a lot of my ideas are around that. I would say it probably would be, you know, and I mean, honestly, for me. Like I don't even think about unlimited budget. If you gave me even like a moderate budget, I'd run with something, you know. So yeah, it probably would be. I mean, there are a couple writers I like that, you know, if I had more resources, like I'd probably want to consider like, you know, adapting them. That would be kind of fun and a challenge. Not all of them are horror, but you know, if I actually had access to money and more things like that, and maybe one or two under my belt, I would consider going out and like, you know, I would like to read a lot, so maybe getting some of my favorite stories or something and trying to tackle something like that, which I think would be
adaptations.
I think that'd be a different type of challenge. You know?
That would be cool.
Yeah. And when it's done well, I really admire that. When a book can stand alone and a movie can stand alone, and they're each their own thing, but you know, they have that connective tissue. It's impressive.
Yeah. Especially if it's done right. If the author of the book, I think, is happy when the film comes out, then I think you've achieved something. Yeah, but I don't even like unlimited budget, you know. I'll start like with you know, give me a couple extra thousand to start with, and then we'll go. And then I can, you know, up the catering budget at least. Yeah, that's what like we're at for ours. That, you know, for you know, a feature that we're looking at shooting a year out. I'm looking at like $100,000 budget to make like what I think is, you know, above B rating. I think would actually make money. Anything smaller than that is considered, you know, $100,000 is still considered low budget. Nothing.
Well, a big part of that is, which is 100% legit, is when you cross the threshold, you start to get into union rights, which are, you know, deserved, and you know that's part of the deal. And it's just once you get that, like you can't keep it under a certain budget. Although they have like micro budgets and stuff, but I think most of the people shooting stuff here, at least most of the people in our group, are doing self-funding, Kickstarters, Indiegogos. And a lot of the people working on those films are doing it, you know, at lower cost than they would for like a bigger production. Yeah, so lots of labors of love.
I found that when I was starting to write, like I really wanted to write so much, but some of these ideas that I came up with, I was like, well, I can't afford to do anything like that, so this movie won't ever come to life.
Yeah.
So I figured, like, I was just very, like, much containing myself in writing. Like, how much do you find yourself doing that? Is it a lot of containment when you write? Like, are you writing, like, when you're writing a script, you're thinking like, hey, I'm gonna have to wear all the hats to make this script come to life and keep it contained entertain for yourself to do it that way, or do you normally just write and then think about how I'm going to shoot it?
Yeah, I'm more the latter. I often get into trouble in some of these competitions where, and I'm very transparent. I let people know this ahead of time. When I start writing, even if my intent is to like, hey, keep within the rules, keep it manageable, I start like, my mind goes crazy and I start writing. So oftentimes I will write something and it's a little crazy, but then there's also kind of like a fun, figuring out like how to do this, like, something that seems too hard to do. But if you talk to the right people, maybe it isn't too hard to do, so like, I shot one that, had like a lot of kids in it and, had some of his arm ripped off, the cookie crumbles, yeah. And not to say that we like nailed it, but like we had, I was able to get like a lot of girls, between like the ages of like 8
Girl
and 12.
Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, Girl Scout cookies. So to be, but I was able to do that, and like we were able to do like it didn't work out quite the way we planned, but we did an arm rip-off scene, and so I feel there's a balance. I feel sometimes, people limit themselves too much, and for me, I think part of the fun is like writing something crazy, and then instead of just saying we can't do it, trying to figure out a way that you can do it, and maybe it's not exactly the way that you had originally written it, but like that is part of the fun, and that's also part of bringing in other people. Like to your point about the werewolf guy, right? Like somebody out there.
Impossible.
Yeah, somebody is out there who's doing that.
For 6 months, I was looking for someone to make the suit the way I wanted it. It is hard,
But I admire people who can really like do a self-contained, like, 2-person in a house and it's still great. Like that's a real challenge too.
Those are interesting to me when I see like a.
But they have to be well done, Yeah.
You see some of these things out of like film festivals, especially people doing shorts, and they'll have nothing but like an iPhone or like a low-end camera and 2 people and no budget. So they'll stay in a house and they'll actually make something really interesting. That's very hard to do.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad ones out there. But I mean, everything is practice, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, like a great script is going to be a great script, whether it's just one person sitting alone or like a mega million thing, but like it's easier said than done. I see a lot of posts that like, hey, I'm looking to get a film made and like it's got to be like 2 people in the cabin. Well, I mean, it's all about the execution and like somebody coming up with that. So and the actors. So that in some ways that's just as hard as doing all these crazy like budget things, because like. Can you keep somebody's attention for 90 minutes with just 2 people in a room? If you can, that's amazing. Like, good for you. It's as challenging as trying to figure out a way to like rip somebody's head off. It's just a different challenge.
A whole different challenge, like writing within containment and then trying to figure something out. That's a challenge.
Yeah, but I do admire when growing up, like John Sayles is a big role model of mine, and he did a lot. He's a great writer, director, classic American. He paid the bills by writing a lot of like cheesy films for Roger Corman, and then he would do these like social films, dramatic films, and his were often very contained, and he would write to budget. So, but I've never been good at that. But I admire it.
That's an art, and it doesn't. You don't see it too much, but that was definitely a question of mine because you have like. I mean, just a list of I think like 20 scripts actually easily come to life. It's probably more than, I don't even want to insult you by getting the number one, but it's like over 20.
I have a big pile of stuff that's never been done. But I still, I often tell people who are interested, I'm like, I want to get stuff out there. So if a script of mine is sitting in a pile, I love to like send people my share and just say, hey, if you can figure out a way to get this done, like let's do it, because I'm not going to get all of it done. I'm a very slow filmmaker. I'm a decent fast writer. I'm a much faster writer than I am a filmmaker. So I want to get as many done as I want to partner with the right people, but yeah, I have piles of scripts. Yeah.
So when you write, and obviously you work really well with the special effects artists and everything. So it seems like you're open to most things. What's the furthest that you've seen from what you've written and actually been filmed? Has there been anything that you've written and they're just like, hey, that doesn't work, and they had to completely change something?
Yeah.
And were you satisfied? How did that work out?
I think it's always tough.
So to see your script change
I mean, I think you have to be. Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself. You don't have to be. I think when you partner with people, and you're the writer, and you're not doing it on your own, you have to be open to those changes and discussions. I've never had anything go really badly. I have had things change, and not always changes I agree with, but the person, the director, may have. They had a good reason for doing it, and they felt it, and then it's really just a difference of opinion. And as long as somebody will listen to, I don't have to win every argument.
Yeah.
If I feel like a director has listened to why I did it, what the purpose is, all of that, and then they say this is why I want to do it a different way. That's all I ask, is that they listen to me and consider it. But ultimately they're the director, and there might be very practical reasons, or it might be more character reasons. I mean, there's one actually being worked on now, shot in Olympia. With wonderful filmmaker named Joshua Carlin, and he was very respectful, but he came in and did some changes that were more about he had to own the film as a director, and he was the primary. I was the source material, but he was the primary driver of that. And with my blessing, he made some changes that worked for him in the story he wanted to tell. And I haven't seen it yet, so I mean, when it comes out, I'll be very curious. And a lot of times, when people are filming stuff and they're making those changes, I don't even go watch them film, because I'm even if I support that, I'm gonna get I would have done it differently. So I'm
is that
my
is
strategy.
That hands off more, just kind of stay off?
I think it depends. It depends on the day. It depends on how involved I am. I end up cooking for I have this weird combo where I'm often the writer and the craft services. So
that's actually really cool.
Yeah, I'll be doing a lot of the cooking, so it's a good excuse to stay away from the filming. But a lot of times, it can be hard. But as a writer, if I want to get more of my stuff out there, sometimes I feel if I'm at the center of everyone, it's going to limit how many films get made.
You'll spread yourself a little too.
Yeah, or I'll block things and I've done it. I've run the gamut. I've been I've been a very creative producer, who's very involved in stuff. I've directed stuff, but there have been some that have just been inspired by an idea and realized other people run with it. So kind of a range of all different types of things. Yeah, I do think you have to, you have to put a little bit of your ego aside, right? It's a collaborative medium. And even if you're the writer, other people have with ideas, and a lot of times, sometimes they come out. When you go and see it with an audience, and they made a choice that's different than what you made, and you see it lands with the audience, you're you know what?
You were right.
You were right. Yeah, and I've told people that, but it's gonna be hard, right? Everybody has their egos too.
That's the thing. I mean, because independent filmmaking, it's one it's your baby, and you got to wear so many hats to make it happen. But you have to work with other people and everything. It's like any kind of mission. That is one thing I learned. It's not much different than any kind of military stuff, the planning and everything, pre-production. It's not much different than any mission.
You're part of a team, right?
It's part of being a team and having the same mission, the same goal at the end. So. When you write a script, I was told there's three versions of the movie that you're gonna watch. It's the script that you wrote, and the script that is filmed, and the one that's edited afterwards. And, so you don't know how it's gonna turn out on film. So.
I mean, in all of these competitions, the editor is always the secret weapon, or maybe not the secret weapon. But if you have a good editor, it's a big thing. And if you're doing I mean, especially comedy, like some of my films have some comedy, like if you're the director and you have an editor, you got at least sense of humor, you got to be kind of alive. Yeah, and I think maybe in horror too.
Especially for jokes to land, like how do you get...
it's a rhythm, right?
From going from writing, because you write a joke, right?
Yeah.
You write something to land, especially in horror, something might be funny to you, and, it has to be acted out. So how do you go from that being a writer to putting in director's hands and actually having confidence that that's going to stick in the same way?
I mean, you don't always, right? Like some of them don't land, but
have you ever written something where you're like, man, I wrote that and it would have landed if they would have done it that way, or anything different? You don't have to say the name of the films or anything, but I imagine that's got to happen.
I think in all films there's probably a little bit of that, but I will say equally, in all films there's something that either you wrote that landed better than you thought it would. Like, oh wow, they really like that. That's surprising. I thought they would have liked this. Or I mean, I haven't directed a ton, but a few times I've teamed up with a buddy, Rich Bowen, and he's a good editor. There are a lot of good editors out there, but I think the thing that works best for me teaming up with him is we have similar sensibilities, similar senses of humor. So, but again, in the editing, I really admire editors. You can do a lot in the editing to shift the nature of a joke, to shift suspense. Some people, especially if they're writer, director, editors, are storyboarding it all out and they edit it exactly the way they do it. I'm much more exploratory when I'm working with an editor and trying out different things and shifting around. It doesn't have to map to the script, so it's an art.
Yeah, it was, one of my questions I was going to ask you is as far as etiquette, because we're still new at that. Is that even a word? Etiquette, as far as etiquette goes.
I like it. I like etiquette.
Film etiquette. I'm just making up words. So when
it'll catch up.
When you hand this off to an editor, right?
Yeah.
And if you get back like a cut, because an editor can make or break your film. Totally. So if you get back a cut from an editor, how that's your thing. Is it weird to just say hey, you missed the mark there, I'm gonna try a different editor, I'm gonna edit myself, or do you continue to try and work with that same editor?
Yeah, I mean, I think all options are open. It depends on so many things, right? It depends on, is it is it a competition, and maybe the first time you're working with an editor? Is it because a lot of people in competitions will get in their film and then they'll go back and redo it, after the fact. It's also what you go in with the expectation with that person. But yeah, I've been involved with a lot of films that have gone through a couple different editors, and it's been both. I mean, sometimes the editor is you know what? It's clearly, I'll put in my time and that's it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I've seen directors take the editing into their own hand because again, it's very hard to film is collaborative, but if you really want something to land a certain way and you have those skills and you can see it and you're trying to communicate it to somebody and it doesn't get through, then maybe you got to do it yourself. But I've been on the side of some things that have gone through that, but for the most part, again, it's also most projects I'm working on. A lot of these projects, people are giving you their free time, so you want to be respectful of that.
That is the one thing, because you really gotta play by a lot of rules, especially when you're asking someone for their time. you know, you get one thing, you know, low budget, no budget, it is still a lot of people helping with a lot of time.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you treat people right in the film industry. That's a big one.
I do think you want to be transparent. I mean, if it's really not working and you think the footage is there and you think maybe it's, you know, worth going to somebody else, that might be a hard conversation to have, but it's a valid conversation to have. I think you just have to be transparent and respectful and, you know, do your best. Yeah.
Definitely fortunate for a lot of people to go from even writing to getting into that step to have a film.
Yeah, exactly.
To even start getting edited. You know, like some people, it's a total dream to even happen.
Yeah.
But by that point, what do you do if you get the film that you don't want? You know, you'd have to have some of those hard conversations. But
and you have to be
right?
Yeah, you also have to be honest about like, can I get to that point? Like whether you're going to be editing or somebody else. Like, you know, it's good to have a backup plan in place. And a lot of this is learning how to work with people. So like, you know, you could position it as like, hey, it was great working with you, but like, I want to try working with different editors, you know, different DPs. So yeah, it's hard. It can be hard though. You just, like, I don't know. You just have to be honest and respectful.
Yeah, definitely respectful.
Yeah.
Especially when you're asking people for their time for their talent. It's insane that this stuff is you know, not expecting much outside of Hollywood.
I mean, just the amount of like, again, like just the Seattle 48, when you see how many teams get together and compete, and you add all the people up for all those teams, like it's a lot of people, you know, and it's really cool. It's really cool.
The last 48-hour horror film festival, I think it was like 90. It was 90-something teams. I want to say it was like 90, over 96.
It was insane. Yeah, the people who run the 48 do a great job.
It's really well organized.
Yeah, it's a lot. All the people who are like festival organizers who run things like that. That is a lot of work. So, but it's, again, what a great community though. How awesome is it to see even the ones that aren't that great, but like, you know, like maybe families get together and make a film, or like, you know, people have been doing it for years, student filmmakers, you know, you really get a wide range of people jumping in and doing it, which I think is very cool.
That's what I would say starting out, for people just like starting out saying like, hey, I have an idea and I want to see it come to life. I think personally, like 48s are some of the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can have the short story or you know anything. You know, just having 48 hours to come up with a story and write it, and giving the perspective that you know they're getting, like a prop and you know a name character and everything. It really kind of levels the field.
Yeah, and you know a lot of people. I mean, you know, like if you just, even if you're just serving food or like helping move things, if you've never been on any type of film shoot before, it's very educational to just get on a film shoot. So you don't have to start off with you being the center. You know, volunteer for a couple of films, and then also you meet people doing it, and you see how much work is involved, you know, in making a film. So, and then, you know, the writing thing, you know, I really encourage people to, like, all the obvious stuff, like read screenplays. Like, you know, people are like, I don't know how to write a screenplay. I'm like, well, try reading a few as a starting point.
That's some excellent advice starting off. Like, hey, just read the screenplays and
and then watch the movie and see how they compare. And then, you know, I'm a big fan of like short films. Like, not every, if you want to go full on and write a bunch of features, that's awesome. It's great. But you know what? Like, short films are achievable. And in a similar way, like novels are different than short stories, like feature films are different than short films. And if you want practice, write a bunch of short films. You know, write a film that's a minute. You know, try doing it.
One of the coolest things I've seen about like some short films is when I see one and I'm like, they need to make that into a movie. I want to see the movie with that. I think that's like you right there. Like, why did you wrote that in 40 hours? Probably end up like Apple TV or somewhere.
I don't know.
You don't know what you think's gonna happen. Like, you might want to see something. But for people like just starting, like if someone, you know, say like they really have an idea even for writing a feature movie. They don't know how to start like writing anything like that. You know, of course, you know, reading a movie script and just reading notes, that's going to help a lot. But locally, regarding like any schools or any talent, like any places that you've seen that you've heard like, you know, any really good information out of any schools or training? Where do people go normally? I don't want to just say where I went to network or where I met my homie Max all the time, but you know, I know you've got to know a lot of different places where people can go for training.
I mean, I will say, you know, just to go back to the core, what, you know, a lot of people will come to me and say, just they have an idea. And I don't want to be discouraging. I try to be encouraging. But, you know, honestly, ideas are the easy part. You know, the execution is the hard part. You can have a very simple idea and execute it well, and that's going to be a million times better than a really wild idea that's just an idea. So you do need to figure out, like, having just an idea, like, you're very rarely going to have somebody buy your idea, or a screenplay writer, like, you know, do something like that. So, you know, again, 48's are great education. There's the Northwest Screenwriting Guild, which is a good institution. You know, if you just poke around, there are a lot of writing groups that people can join. And again, a great way to learn about screenwriting is to read and critique other screenwriters' stuff. So if you talk about it and you're like, you know, giving people feedback. But I mean, local institutions, Seattle Film Institute, Shoreline College has some good film programs and a good film department. Northwest Film Forum is a nonprofit which has a lot of great classes on production and all types of things.
Northwest Film Forum said, so we went to Seattle Film Institute. Shoreline is definitely a common one. I haven't heard of that.
Northwest Film Forum is not a college, it's a nonprofit. It's been around for a while. It's in Capitol Hill. They'll screen a lot of films, but they have classes on production. They'll do open script reads, stuff like that. So it's a good place to just keep an eye out on stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then, you know, there are a lot of film groups on Facebook. I mean, I think, you know, I think Seattle Horror Filmmakers is a pretty good one. But yeah, I would say Northwest Screenwriters Guild, people should check out. You know, they have a website, you can check it out. And, you know, you can always just raise your hand and say, I'm a new screenwriter looking at this type of stuff. You know, are there groups I can join? And that's what I think a lot of times, like, raising your hand is a big thing. Don't feel bad about asking a question you might think is stupid. Like, everybody is starting somewhere, and, you know, generally, people will be very helpful if you just, you know, if you just put up your hand and say, I'm considering this, I'm considering that. So, yeah, there's a lot of good institutions out there.
Have you ever written something and shared it and then like wished you hadn't because it wasn't ready? Like, when's the right time? Like, you know, so like my first draft I wrote, Max can attest to it, it sucked. It was horrible. Right? So then we talked about my movements, like we should change some things, and of course like making those changes, having a conversation with the person. You know, like that day. Like, when is your time? Like when you read over a script, like how do you know when you get the feelings like, okay, I think this is ready to share with the rest of people?
Having run a writing group for years, I can tell you, like, there's no right or wrong answer, especially when you're sharing it with peers versus, like, if you're submitting it to a competition or trying to get an agent or something, like, not early, like later. You have to go through revisions, you have to do basic stuff, like make sure it's formatted properly, like check your spelling, all that. Like, that's a big leap.
So so to go from step, if you haven't written anything, and then get to the step where someone is like, hey, I want to submit this to someone at like Netflix or something like that. Like, what's the smartest process really for them to go through?
Well, I don't know, first of all.
To start probably with a screenwriting group or something, right?
Well, I mean, if you're starting from scratch, I would just say, you know, there's a bunch of books out there on screenwriting, like Save the Cat and like How to Write a Screenplay in 21 Days. And a lot of them have a lot of the same stuff, and they're valid. So get a couple of those.
How to take your story basically and fix it when it's dead, you know?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't know a lot about like whatever selling it to like a big studio or anything, but I do know like
well, the people because you got enough people like pick yours up and be like, I want to film that, and that happens to you. It doesn't happen to a lot of writers where someone's like, a lot of writers don't get their scripts out where people are like, yeah, I actually want to film that, and then go out and just do it.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the hardest part.
It's different because they do a lot of shorts, and shorts really don't have a great path to monetization for the most part. So that's a bit of a different animal. But I would say, if you are, and there's also different, there's a lot of writers I know who are just really focused purely on the writing, are not interested in making their own films. They want to just get better screenwriters, and they want to submit to competitions. They want to get an agent. They want to get to that next level. Yeah. And then there's a lot of people which is more in line with me, which is more like, all that was great, but really I also want to just get stuff out there and make films.
Yeah. That's the difference here. We all want to make films. I think that's where we're at. Like, we want to not just write the script, but we want to see this stuff come to life.
Yeah.
It's like you've got this huge network of people.
Yeah. I mean, I did go to film school years ago, and I do have friends who, like especially in the TV world, kind of went the normal route and are producers and stuff. And there are programs once you get in there, like, to be, I mean, they may have changed, but to be like writers' apprentices and to get into groups and like, go through all that. So in the TV writing world, they have that, and they do have good script competitions and stuff. But yeah, if you're really just starting out, I think a lot of people think of like and it's not a bad thing, but think of like the final end goal, and maybe you should just work on like just becoming a better writer to start with.
Yeah.
And just write one screenplay, and it's the likelihood that your first screenplay is going to be the one that breaks you out is very unlikely. Like most successful screenwriters have piles and piles of scripts that never got made, and it wasn't until much later. And there's a lot of luck involved too. So I do see a lot of people put a lot of pressure on their first screenplay with kind of ideas and concepts that are not really tied to reality of like, maybe once in a blue moon something will happen, but you want to get better at screenwriting, sit down and write, and do a screenplay, do a couple drafts, do another one, and that's a lot of work. It's hard.
I think that's where it goes from the point of being an idea to actually being a product and something to work with. Is when you actually have it on paper and you have something.
Yeah, that's a big accomplishment, right? Yeah,
that's the step right there.
And you have to be willing to share it with people and get it out in the world. And you have to be willing to, take some people are going to think it's going to suck. You got it. So like, all of that's like kind of normal stuff. But if people want entry points, I would say, get a couple of those books, read some screenplays.
Save the Cat, definitely one. I remember that one.
Yeah.
I've actually read parts of that one too.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you can just Google it. There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
But, then eventually, like, maybe join the local writing group. Put your hand up, and because you will read other people's screenplays and then be able to submit your own.
And that's pretty much, I guess, like you were saying, that's what helped you the most is really just getting into, the writer, taking over the writing side of the group and doing all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big. I got as much out of reading everybody else's scripts over the years as I've gotten, from getting direct reading. You're reading a lot of people, you see different trends. But I'm not shy about submitting stuff in rough shape because I know my audience, and generally it's like people I know and not somebody who's expecting something of it. So, maybe there's a germ of an idea there, whereas I know other people who really will not submit stuff until their third, fourth, or fifth draft, which is amazing and in much better shape. But I'm comfortable putting back of the napkin stuff and handing it off to somebody.
Yeah, my first draft was going to my friends, family, and I'm just curious. I'm like, is it good? Is it good?
Yeah, it's good to get different people, and even sounds obvious, but even if your target audience is mostly guys like you, send us a couple women, mix up your audience and get it to somebody who's doesn't know you and is not as invested in your feelings.
That's honestly where most of my curiosity is too. After writing, I found out, I'm like, more curious now, like what women would think of it, and like people, like other people that aren't necessarily like,
different than you.
not combat vets without like huge dark sense. I'm wondering what normal people think of it, I guess.
Yeah, well, think of what your audience is going to be, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and
not that I'm targeting normal people for my own writing at all, you know, but I'm just kind of curious, you know. So curious, the curiosities are definitely there.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense. Like,
and then, you know, we always say, like, you know, ultimately you're the writer. So, like, you can choose to ignore everybody's feedback, but generally if, like...
Have you ever done that and seen it come and, like, produced it? Have you ever, like, written something and someone's like, I want to change it, and just, like, seen it all the way through? Like, no, this is staying.
There have been some shorts where I've been like, I still like myself, but generally I think the rule of thumb is, like, if you give it to a group and let's say you give it to a group of like 7 or 8 people, and at least 3 to 4 are tripping up on the same thing, that's an issue. Like, right? If everybody says, oh, it's good writing, but like I didn't like, you know, this, and
they're all
it's all
saying you
different.
should wear the saddle. I think you might be a horse.
Yeah. Or some, you know, nobody got it. You know, like you have to be a little honest, you know, to yourself. So, but again, it's hard. Like, you know, and then a lot of times I'll get feedback, and I know something's wrong with the script, but I don't know how to fix it. And sometimes I work hard at it, and sometimes I just put it aside and go to something else. You know.
Yeah, it'll figure itself out, or someone else might pick it up, or you'll just move on to the next writing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, you know, I mean, again, you know, you read like Stephen King's, and like even Stephen King has this pile of stuff that, you know, like even though it seems like everything he's ever written has gotten published, I'm sure that, you know, there's something sitting in the pile somewhere.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't even remember because he was so coked out at the time, which he said himself. You know?
I
think he said something like he forgot directing the Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, he just
Benders for days.
Drive or Cujo.
But I mean,
that's it. Yeah, Max actually behind it. I'm gonna actually put the camera on Max, and I'm gonna put it back over here. This is Max, my homie Max. I met him in film school.
the man behind the man.
Yeah, the man behind the camera right here. Yeah, he just brought that up. Stephen King writing his Cujo script, doesn't even remember it. He's Max is my film Yoda. Like pretty much all my questions, my film questions, I go to Max for. He has all the answers for me. He's an awesome dude.
Actually, it's a short one, but Stephen King's book on writing is really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well worth checking out.
I can't talk much about it. A friend of mine, Stephen Brins, he's actually making an adaptation of this thing.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. He was one of the last to get in with the Dollar Baby, which Stephen King offered for years, which was very generous, and just ended. Yeah. And your buddy was
I'm super thrilled because I have a role in it.
Oh, nice.
I'm not going to be saying anything other than that because I don't want to give away anything. But I'm super stoked for it. It's going to be really fun.
I think I know a few people involved in that, so it'll be great.
5J Films that did Flockus. I was acting for them, and I talked to Jay. He was the director for Flockus, and I got him linked up with Steve Wren. They got this incredible team put together.
Yep.
I have total confidence this film.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, he's gonna crush it. I'm super happy about it.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it. I'm gonna stay off that subject. Hopefully I can
save it for a future.
Yeah. I'll show you guys some stuff in the future. I can tell my role on that one. It'll be fun. So when you first started like making film series, I know you know tons of producers around there and stuff like that, and locals. I guess now would be like some shout out for your some friends and stuff around here. Like who would you go to? Like if you're a new filmmaker and you're really looking for like people's help and certain expertise. I mean, if I'm going to somebody for some writing experience, I'm definitely going to come to you and be like, hey man, like what do you think? By the way, I do have a script for you to read. I'm not going to give it to you here.
No, totally.
So for production and stuff like that, if you need help like during production, like some names, things like that.
I mean, I think again, and this is just my take. Like, there's always like a commercial film world, like people who are like making their living in film and stuff, and that can be. There's a good scene, a lot of great people in Seattle here. That can be a little tougher. That involves like film incentives and all that. And then there's more of like a local homegrown scene. which again does not really involve a lot of money, but there's a lot of energy and activity there.
There's energy, there's activity, and there's really helpful people. There's a lot of helpful people that just want to get stuff done, and it really helps people get started out.
Yeah. I mean, I think I know not everybody does Facebook, but there are a number of Facebook groups that are, again, Seattle horror filmmakers. I think there's a film and crew actors of Seattle. There's like a Northwest Hall board. So there's a lot of, that would be a place I would start. And I do see a lot of people start and just raise their hand and say something. I moved new to the area, or, I'm just out of school, or like I'm looking to get back into it. We've mentioned it ad nauseum, but I think there's a reason for it. Like, the Seattle 48 is a great way to meet not just the people on your team, but just go to a full theater full of filmmakers. I do think our social events are pretty fun. I've seen a lot of connections and a lot of help by people meeting face to face. So, every 2 months we do a get together for Seattle horror filmmakers, which is just purely hanging out. For individuals, it's a little hard to gauge because there's a lot of friendly people out there, but also, a lot of people working on a lot of their own things, and there's limited bandwidth. But there are a lot of great local DPs out there. Let's say you want to be a DP eventually. I would suggest, offering to gaffer, grep, or PA, and start connecting with the local GPs who do that. And there's a lot of great ones out there. And then, for writing and directing, I would mention there's lots of wonderful people out there, but then if I mention their name, if I get inundated.
Yeah, you don't have to throw out.
There's a lot. I think the easiest way to do it, again, is to go on one of these Facebook groups, which there are a lot of, and I see this all the time, and people just do an introduction of themselves, and they kind of say they're new and something, and you'll get a lot of people just saying hi, and and then if you're respectful and say hey, can I reach out to you about this, that would be good. And it will depend on what path you want to do, right? Like sound or DP or just filmmaking in general. And that's what I would recommend. I mean, certainly for writing, and especially horror writing, if people want to reach out to me, they certainly can. I'm the admin of the group.
Yeah.
And I get that all the time. We've been running a writing group for a while, and I might reposition it because it kind of has run out a bit of steam. But I'm always open to and I do it all the time. It might take me a while to get back to you, but if people want to reach out about writing stuff, they totally can to me, especially in the horror world. And outside of that, I think going on the groups and just doing an intro and raising your hand is the best way to do it.
Yeah, just put yourself out there. Just get your face out there and get tell everyone.
Yeah, there's another newer competition which is kind of a riff on the 48, which is run out of the Northwest Camera Center. I think that's NWCC. I think it's Camera Center, which is Dominic Barbero and Galen Andrus, and that's been really cool to see. It's kind of a riff on the 48, so there's a lot of activity there. I'm trying to think of what else. Really, it's raising your hand in groups and the 48.
Yeah,
I can't stress enough. If you're a newbie, hop into a 48.
We did. Actually, Max and I both. We did the first 48 that we were working on together. We met 20 people from that crew, and we actually ended up working with a couple of them afterwards. So that was definitely. I tested that. Definitely an avenue that worked out for us. At least meeting another 20 people to work with.
Totally, right?
Do some work with some.
And if you meet 20 people and they're doing stuff, potentially that's 20 different projects. And and definitely they might be on another film, and then figure out whether are you trying to do this as a living, or are you just trying to get experience? If you're just trying to get experience, I think you can keep your eye on these groups and jump onto a lot of shoots.
So, what are the don'ts? There's got to be any lessons learned. I mean, what would you, anything in the film world around here that you work with or that you've experienced where you're like, I will not do that again? Like what I've learned is I will not agree to shoot a film without reading the script again. I won't do that. I've made an agreement for that before, and then I've actually read the script and I'm like, I wish I didn't agree to this, but now I have to do it with my work. So I learned that I won't do that again. You know? What are some don'ts that you
some personal and some I think just, I mean, I think there's a common sense thing of like, intentionally or not, sometimes, you know, especially if you're doing favors, like they can grow in proportion. So, you know, I think I think it's totally fair if you're signing up for a project to be able to read the script, to have a sense of where they're shooting, how many days, you know, what's expected, all of that. Like, so if stuff is like, you know, occasionally for posts on the site, I try to be as supportive as possible, but like sometimes you get like a very vague post, and you know, whether it's a paid gig or an unpaid gig, I think there's a baseline of like information anybody should expect, whether they're a newbie or not. It's just fair, you know, you know, you shouldn't have to pay like getting your own money for like something, you know, in any sense.
Don't pay to get into anything. Unless it's a film school or something. Of course, don't pay to get into.
I will say the other one, which is tough, and I have experienced it, and I understand, is again, some of these projects are challenges when you don't have money. But if you are transparent about that on your side and the expectation, and somebody commits to the project, you have to kind of have an understanding with that person of like, is this a locked commitment or is this a flexible commitment? Like based on like, because I've been in situations where people have said, I can do this for your film, but if I get a paid gig, I will need to take the paid gig. And as long as we're on the same page about that, that's cool. But if, you know, it's happened across the board. Like sometimes people just drop out and they like just kind of drop out. And you're like, I'm not sure what happened there. So even in a unpaid situation, you know, as the person running the project, you need to be really clear. Now, of course, stuff happens. Like people be sick, you know, that's, but I think that's always tough because sometimes like, well, let's say it's a lead actor and you've got everybody else lined up. And you have a location. Like let's say you have a location or something and somebody just kind of like does a no-show. You can adjust, but that can be really tough. So, but I mean, outside of that, I mean, I think just try to have a good, you know, don't bring a shitty attitude.
Don't overcommit and definitely show up when you say you're going to show up.
If you're, I've not had this happen, but I've heard it with other people. Like if you're doing like a group project and you come in with like kind of a shitty attitude, and everybody else is like on board and doing well, like why are you even doing it? You know, like so like just common sense stuff. And you know, if you're collaborating with people, you know, like if they like for a script, if they want to do a contract, you know, that's cool. Like you can do a contract even if it's not really having money exchanged. I would just say, you know, just both offer transparency and details when you're running a project and ask for transparency and details when you're committing to a project. And people shouldn't be shy about that even if they're, you know, PAs never worked on a film. Like just the basics. Are you going to be fed? You know, like stuff like, you know, like 5 or 6 questions that seem obvious, but like there have been productions that have not really done that. And sometimes it might be a little unintentional, but still, like when people are volunteering their time, you have to be very respectful.
Exactly. You really do.
And from my experience, and I know a lot of great folks, try to like, as much as possible when I'm making a film, like I really believe it is everybody who's involved with the film is their film.
Right.
You know, it's not, everybody's involved. You know, and there might be a hierarchy, but like, so there's respect on the other end. Like, I understand sometimes why people don't release a film but like, I I feel an obligation, even if I'm not totally happy with it, to get it out there because a lot of people worked on the film. And I'm like, it's not just for me, it's for other people. So
there's a lot of time invested in any film.
Yeah. Or like, you know, if you're an actor, like make sure that like, you know, you offer people stuff for their reels if they want to do it. Like, you know, just, you know, people are doing you, even if they want to do it, they're doing you a big favor. So, you know, make sure they have a good time, make sure they're getting something out of it, make sure they're treated with respect, and as much as possible, like, shit happens, but like, you know, try to be as transparent and honest as you can.
No, those are definitely the keys. I mean, you have me drawn in because even from like an acting standpoint, I'm like, yes, exactly all those things. Yeah, that's perfect. I would definitely act in a script.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And there's a lot. Again, there's so many great groups doing lots of great stuff and a lot of good energy, and you can tell that, you know, you can see a lot of these behind the scenes shots from local films, and you can see people laughing and having a good time, and like, you know, you can tell, you know, these are good people to work with.
Yeah, good energy goes it goes a long way.
Yeah,
I mean, you want
pay attention to stuff like that if you want to connect with people. Like, look at the behind the scenes shots, and if people are laughing and having a good time, like, that's a good one you want to be on. You know?
That's the thing about, you know, actors and acting and everything. We're all just playing. We're playing. We're having a good time. So everyone, even if you're acting a role where you have to be sad, and everything, you just want to be sad for a moment and then get out of it and be happy. You know, like no one wants to, you know, be around a set like the last person that wants to be in a hostile working environment is like an actor or something. They just want to have fun.
It can also, when you're tired and doing a lot, it can only take like one or two people to really like bring everybody else down. So fortunately, it's not been. But I've heard tale of like, you know, really like, you know, one person really brought down a whole film crew, you know, just by having a kind of crummy attitude. You know?
Yeah, keep a good attitude. I mean, there's always passion. You know, passion gets involved and people can have their, you know, different disputes and everything. Yeah. That is a lot different than just showing up with a bad attitude. That's totally.
Yeah, so yeah, that's, I will say, nearly every shoot, like I wish I'd planned more time.
Just want more time for shooting.
You know, working with special effects is super fun, but like don't underestimate how tough those are.
That's some really good advice.
Yeah, practical effects. I mean, they're great.
Practical effects.
Yeah.
Make sure you have enough time to get the practical effects right.
Yeah, and if you're doing something that, like, if you're doing something that's only one time.
Because resetting them, especially practical effects, and that's a lot of cleanup and everything too. I'm talking about like horror movies stuff like that.
Yeah. I haven't done a lot, but I've gotten good advice for people on VFX. That if you are going to do VFX, like make sure you talk to and bring in the VFX person early while filming and as part of planning, because there's a lot that goes into VFX that if you don't account for it while you're shooting, it's going to be hard to impossible to implement them. So that's advice I've gotten from VFX people to really, like, if you plan on using that, like, involve them early. And, you know, it will just save a lot of time.
I would be worried not to have, like, the editor, like, whoever doing it, like, actually there present while I'm shooting it all. Like, I really want to make sure that I'm shooting it where they can.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an area I don't know as much about as I wish I did. But I just, you know, there's a lot of things to account for when, and a lot of films, especially horror films, have VFX now. So even low budget. So, yeah, just take advantage of the people that you have, you know. Lean on them. You know, you brought them in for a reason.
Yeah. In every way. Like, no human's meant to do everything alone. That's just not how we work. We need help with everything. Yeah. Can't make any film with one person. You got to use every piece of talent from every person. That's going to happen. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Sure. Yeah. Go for it.
A couple of these.
Yeah.
I got.
And I'll just say, if anybody's on, again, Seattle Horror Filmmakers, feel free to join.
Yes, Seattle Film Horror Makers. That is definitely in the group. It's honestly, there's a lot of really cool people in there. I've seen so many things come to life from that group.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, good energy.
So my last question.
Yes. Last one. I'm ready.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen so much local work.
Yeah.
Okay. I was honestly going to ask the top 5, but you probably have more than that. Like, in the last like 5 years that you've seen, like all the films and everything, like whether it's features or shorts, anyone that's looking for specifically like horror, people that have made horror films here out of Seattle, like what are like the top 5 titles we should be looking for, like that you remember, like if you can remember it off your head, I'm sure it's worth watching.
Yeah, well, apologies to everybody. I have a terrible memory, so I'll probably forget a bunch.
Yeah. Don't hold it against them. I'm throwing them on the spot there.
Exactly. Let's see. There's one I saw down in Portland. Portland has a great horror scene too, and
we won't exclude Portland.
Yeah,
definitely Pacific
Portland,
Northwest. Yeah,
the same people
sure.
run the Portland Horror Festival and the Lovecraft Film Festival, so those are great. But there was one which was kind of horror comedy, which I really dug and was really out there. I think it was called Baby Fever. I think the director was named Hannah Cummings, maybe. That was a really fun one. It channeled a lot of trauma energy. Trauma films like Classic Nukem High. And really had great style, and the lead was great, and it was gross. And that was really...
I love it. It was gross.
It was gross.
It was gross.
And funny. And that was really good. So I would love to see what she and her team are doing again. Not a Seattle filmmaker, but there's another woman who I've been tracking for a while, who has... Her short films are in combat all the time, so she's from the East Coast, and I think she is shooting a feature now, and she also just wrote a novella whose name is Izzy Lee, and she's done a lot of really great films, both straight horror and kind of comic horror. So she's not Seattle, but has been featured a lot in Seattle, and she's great, and so I'm very excited to see what she comes up with next. I would say, let me think what else is going on here. A guy I've worked with, who I think is a very talented filmmaker, Nicky Smith, has had some fun shorts recently, and both that he's directed or shot. And he works with a lot of people I work with, and he's a great filmmaker. And there's 2 younger filmmakers who I mentioned earlier, who always are in the 48s, and they're kind of running the 72 hours. So Galen Andrus. Yeah, they're both fun, I'm sure I'm missing people. John Robinson, who is a friend of mine, did a great short called Needlework. That's always been a favorite of mine. Really well edited and needlework. Yeah, that was really good. And Chris Wyatt, who's also an editor, did a film called Lily about a kid. So I appreciate. I'm not an editor. I think it's fun when people whose first superpowers are editing come up with something that's really well edited. Those are the ones that kind of pop out. There's a lot of other, and people I know through the horror group, like Ty Hoffer has a bunch of short films, Tommy Heffernan and the guy he works with, who I forget his name, has done a lot of shorts, and then the group that Kyle Boynton and Film Vandals, that won the Horror 48.
Yeah.
And I think they've been in like 10 years or 48 or something. They do a lot of comic films. Obviously I see a lot in the 48s. I'm sure I'm missing some. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch. And I'm sure I'm missing a lot of good filmmakers. But those are all worth checking out. And again, pretty much all seen through festivals. Bone Back, Lovecraft, Portland Horror Film Festival, Crypticon, this is where I've seen all these films. And there's always films where like maybe like overall it didn't quite hit it, but like there's a great performance or like there's a great effect or something like that. So that's always fun too. The nice thing about shorts, I think, sometimes is they don't have to be perfect, but like you can. They're short. So if there's one real, if you see like one amazing effect and maybe the story is like but you're like, wow, that effect's really cool.
Find the artist.
Yeah. And again, I do this all the time. You see a film you like that's local, go to the credits, see who worked on it, and reach out to them.
That was one of my steps for like costuming, because I was like, man, if I really didn't find this, the next step was just to like sit through festivals and just look at like the best costuming that I think. I was the same thing that you guys had. It was one that you posted. It was a makeup competition.
Yeah.
And that was one of the steps I was thinking. I was like, I talked to makeup artists, I talked to costume designers. So like my plan, I was really just going to go sit and watch the makeup competition to find a legitimate.
When I first got back into that's what I did. I went to Crypticon and I just watched, and I introduced myself to all of them. And more horror filmmakers. Ryan Smith down in Tacoma has been doing a lot of great stuff. He does a lot of great effects work and good sense of humor, a lot of Lovecraftian stuff. And then the guys who are always doing all the Michael Myers, like Friday the 13th ones. They're great, Charles and Aaron. So there's a lot of good, and I'm sure there's a lot of good films being made that I haven't seen yet that I'm excited to see. So
I think. I already forgot. We started with the name of the event next week, and you said
yes. I can
definitely want to end with people knowing that information, because that's coming up. Next week, so.
There's a guy down in Oregon who posts every week on the Seattle Horror Filmmakers page, and he just pulls together all the events and does a calendar.
Yeah.
So if you go to our page and you follow him, and there's so many. So Bone Bat is going to be at the Sif Egyptian in Seattle next weekend. I think Saturday, all day.
Sif Egyptian.
Yeah, it's great. They do a great job. In May, mid-May-ish, I think, somewhere in May, Crypticon. It's a 3-day horror event down at SeaTac. I know next weekend, the same thing happened last year. The Shoreline Film Festival is happening, same day as Bone Bat. They have a couple horror films in there. Those are all the ones that are upcoming. And then date TBD, but our next hang is going to be in Tacoma sometime in May, and everybody's invited to that. You got to go to the page and find out what it is. Yeah,
and you show up there. If they show up to the hangout, they're going to be writers, local directors, producers, everyone from the page that comes and hangs out.
Bunch of geeky, nice, fun people.
Nice, fun people that like to make films. So I think that's perfect. I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Hope to see both you guys.
That just sounds fun. I did not know there was going to be live bands between short films, and that just sounds fun.
Bone Bat is wild.
Yeah.
They're great. Those guys, there's a lot of passion that they put into it, a lot of work, and they're just the two nicest guys. I know they've had some support. Two nicest guys, and they love horror, and it really shows. It really shows. It's some of the best shorts I've seen with a Bone Bat. And this is not, it happens locally, but the films are selecting are from all over the world. And a lot of Bone Bat people, a lot of the best short filmmakers have gone on to do features and stuff. So it's a great place to see. It's a lot of wild creativity there.
I think that's such a good way to start. If you think you might have a good idea, really, if you think like, hey, this is a really good concept, and you make a short, and people are interested in your short, then it is a good idea. Then you can make write a feature out of it or something like that.
And again, you learn so much in doing that, So.
Standard?
I thought it was Cantonese.
Was it? No one knows, man. There's a movie bar. We got a movie playing the
I just figured everybody was in on the joke.
I think that's absolutely some of the best ways to start short films for any filmmakers that want to get into it. And you have the perfect group for it. So the next hangout is at Twizzle. That's one of the people in my chat. It's this dude Chuck. He might actually be in a film we got.
Yeah. come on out. Come on out. Everyone is invited. It is really it is just to hang out, and it's very fun.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when that date comes out for May, we'll definitely keep us posted.
Yeah,
We'll
you
be
can
out for
share
that
it with your gang, definitely.
Yeah, and anyone think about just wanting to meet some filmmakers out here and getting into movies or whatever, just show up.
Yeah.
Join the group, show up out to the events. That's the way to meet people.
Yeah.
Really, really good advice.
Yeah. Well, this is fun, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, I really do appreciate it. You got huge welcome. Yeah, just meeting you in film school. I was like, man, you know all the best hangouts. This is cool. It's fun. I was like, where should we, hang out just to do an interview? And of course, like Daniel Hickey, he's like, I know this Two Fingers Social Bar is, the only movie bar in Seattle. They actually shoot live movies up there all the time.
That's
super
great.
cool letting us
People
do the
should
interview
come.
in here,
People
too.
should come. Yeah.
So yeah, next time we hang out with Daniel, it'll be at a different spot. I'm sure it'll be something going on. I think Tacoma. You said right? That's gonna be.
We've got to figure out the bar.
Yeah.
But that's what we're targeting. Just to be fair to all the wonderful Tacoma people who come up and all the time up to Seattle. So you gotta be kind to them.
I have to be there for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And hopefully someone gets something out of this. Get started. Take an idea, put it on the paper, and write. And get out there and start meeting people to put some stuff together.
That'd be great. Excited to see your work. Whoever does something. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
See you, homies. Hope y'all have fun.
Wow, look how many options.
Yeah, close that part.
Dude, you're a good interviewer. Nice job.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're awesome to hang out with, man.
Oh, thanks.
Super cool. I wanted to ask you a couple more questions, but